everyone, I'm so glad to have you back on my channel, or if you're new to my channel, then I'm glad to have you here. Today we're going to be looking at a masculine card. This I'm going to call an advanced technique because we're going to need to do some layering of stencils, some masking, and things like that. But I think you are going to love it. This is my favorite masculine card that I have ever made, and so I'm super excited to share it with you today. If you haven't done it yet, make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button. That does not harm you at all, but it makes such a difference to me, so I would appreciate it so much. I've worked really hard on this card and I think you're gonna love it. Let's start with some of the products that we're going to be using. You could use any type of alphabet. I'm using this Mighty alphabet. I really like that font. I'm going to use the Hey from All About You. This is a word die set, and I'm just going to use I'm not using the shadow. Color Blocks Triangle Stencil, love that one, and the Classy Stripes for a masculine look. We're going to use one color of ink for the background called Desert Night and a re-inker of gray with this embossing paste for the top layer. I'm starting with Bristol smooth paper, and I cut this down to 4 by 5.25 so that I can layer something behind it. You're gonna need some type of masking paper. I'm using Gina because it's just what I had, and it's a great size for this. So Gina K's stuff folds right down the middle, partly just to be able to tear it apart, but I'm going to use that and cut so that I've got mine pretty even. I'm just going to fussy cut down the middle of this page, and then I'm going to use each section to create my masking. I want this to look like torn paper, so I just simply tore down the edge. Trying not to take too much of the paper off so that I've got options on making this pretty even with the other side. So I just tore a little, probably about 1/4 of an inch off of it, and I did this on both pieces, and then we're going to figure out the torn part that I like the best, and we're going to make sure we make it about 1/3 of the card is masked and 1/3 is open, and then the next third is masked. The nice thing about this torn paper look is if you don't get it looking the way you want it to, you can go and tear another strip. It's perfectly fine. I didn't like that the other one had a lot more detail than this bottom one, so I decided I would tear it just a little bit more and give myself some more detail, which really looked good on the bottom of the card. So once I get this correct, I used my ruler there, my T ruler, to measure so that I have my card split up into thirds, and then I'm going to apply the masking tape. So a couple of nice things about this masking tape is that you can reuse it. So once you stick it down, it's got a really interesting texture that is very slick on one side, which I feel like it makes this ink blending a little easier over it. But also, once you put it down, if you don't feel like you have it in the right place, you can just pull it off and remask. So I'm kind of using the mat here, and I'm looking at how far up I've got this to see if I feel like I have it even. And I'm going to use my ruler and measure each side under here and just make sure I'm about right on how even these are. So you don't have to be this precise, but I really like my cards, especially if it's going to be something bold like this, to make sure that I've got the proportions correct. So I'm using my T ruler just to make sure I've got about the same amount covered up on each side. So I just wanted to make it really even, and now it's time to start getting our stencil ready. We're going to start with the Color Block Triangle. This is from Altenew, and like I said, I will list everything in the description. I did not put any adhesive on the back of the stencil. You could do that if you wanted to. Instead, I decided I would use some washi tape to just tape it down really good. This is a bigger stencil with not super small lines, so I feel like it stays pushed down pretty well. It's not like you're going to pull it up very easily. So I think just using some washi tape around the outside is perfectly fine. I wanted this to be pretty dark blue, so I decided to get a smaller ink blending tool, and I'm using Desert Night, which is the darkest blue in the set of this color. So if you know how Altenew does their inks, they usually have a set of 4 colors, and they kind of are a gradient, and this is the darkest color. But you see, if I do it light, it goes on more of a light blue, even though stamping with it, this would be more like a navy. So I'm going to really ink blend and add a ton of ink to this panel because I want it to be as blue as possible. I also am going to try to add more ink to the outside edges than to the center. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit so you can see how this is turning out. And you can see that masking paper, it does a great job of not pulling up on the edges. It does a good, nice, crisp line. So I'm just really adding to make this spotlight effect and really giving myself a lot of ink on this panel, like I said. So just wanted you to see how dark I get the color. Before I tape the next stencil down, I'm going to put some Altenew embossing paste in a little container. So this, I just found this in my kitchen, and so I'm going to put some embossing paste in here. You probably need a good scoop. You could do a little bit more if you want to. It's just got to cover that stencil, and really it's kind of amazing that you would think that you'd want to fill this whole cup up and do it, but no. So I'm going to do that was like about 9 drops of the re-inker. And this will just depend on how much of this embossing paste you use. Looks like it's going to be really dark, but by the time I start mixing it around, I've got a light gray. So I'm just using a spatula and I'm mixing the embossing paste, and I'm going to get it to, I want it to be kind of a light gray, you know, like you saw in the pictures. I want it to be about, I want it to show up, but I want it to be where it doesn't look white anymore. So I want it to be gray. This kind of reminds me of like a men's suit or something, you know, like I just think of it as a great masculine color. So I added 2 more drops. That's a total of 11. Okay, and if you get the color and you don't like what the color is looking like, then you can always add more paste. I think I decided that I'd been mixing it up and some of it was kind of starting to dry. I wasn't sure I had quite enough, so I grabbed a little bit more. Just grab some more, add some more color, and just keep messing with it till you get it to a color that you like. And the nice thing about those re-inkers, I mean, they just have so much in them. You could do this a lot of times and not run out of your re-inker, which is good. If you were trying to do this with just using the ink pads or something like that, it may be a little bit more difficult for you. Now that I have it the color that I want, I'm going to add the stencil. So I'm looking at this type of stencil with these thinner lines. I really feel like you may want to use some pixie spray on it. So I am going to spray this off camera with a little bit of that adhesive. And pixie spray is just kind of a removable adhesive that holds the back of the stencil down. I'm still going to use washi tape around it, but this will help it stick, and you don't want to mess up your lines. When you're pushing this embossing paste around, it definitely can push a thinner stencil out of the way. So I decided I would be extra careful and use that pixie spray. So once I've got this good and taped down, I'm going to go ahead and start adding my embossing paste. You see that some places it'll kind of look white where I didn't get it mixed really well, but you can always go back over that and you're kind of mixing it up as you go over the stencil. And so I'm applying this over all of my stripes, make sure I get a good coverage, and then I'm going to show you the reveal. Okay, I had so much tape on this that both of my stencils came off at the same time, and they're a little attached to this masking paper as well. So I'm trying to carefully get everything off. Before I take the masking paper off, I'm just giving it a good look and making sure that I haven't messed up any of my lines. So see how I got down just a little bit lower on this? I'm just taking a tweezer, and this tweezer has a flat edge so I can wipe these lines and make sure I keep them very straight and don't have any mess ups. Okay, and here's removing the masking paper. Look how cool that looks. And I'm going to remove the top one. It's all kind of stuck together. Just be gentle with it. Doesn't that look cool? Oh, I stuck my finger on there, so I'm going to wipe that off. Be sure you have clean fingers before you stick them on your white panel. So while you're waiting for your panel to dry, you can get together what you're going to use as your sentiment. So with masculine cards, I love doing a sentiment that I make my own because there's not a whole lot of masculine sentiments out there. And my husband's favorite quote for his friends is, "Hey dude." So I just thought that would be really a great sentiment for something that he could use to send to people, or that my teenage boy could use to send to somebody and not feel like they were using a flowery card. So for this, to make it stick up and look really cool, I decided that I would cut out the letters of dude in metallic silver. That's by Fawn. I'll link it at the end. And then I used some navy cardstock from Altenew to put the dude letters. So I did 2 of each blue and 1 of the silver, and I'm offsetting the silver there so that it looks like a shadow. I just feel like this helps your letters really stand out. It's a little bit of a process, but it really looks very, very good. So I would definitely suggest using a liquid glue for this, and you're probably going to need some type of tweezers. And I use the same process with the hay. So that hay comes from a different set. It's not just the straight up letters. I think it's nice to mix your fonts a little bit. So I use this more scripty hay, and it's got the silver on the back and then the 2 sets of the navy on top. Now once your panel is dry, you can add your letters to the panel. Look how cool this looks. And to do this, you could use whatever adhesive you'd like. I think I ended up using liquid glue. You just got to be careful and wipe it off if it squishes out from below there. It's a little tricky because those stripes are raised up, so you're really sticking this to the embossing paste. So just have to work with it a little bit to make sure you got it on. So I did back this card in navy just to kind of pop up the white a little bit more. So I think this gives a huge impact. It looks so cool. It's very masculine. I hope that all of you enjoyed this idea, and I will be coming out with lots more videos on masculine cards. I love making masculine cards. So make sure you stay tuned. If you haven't done it yet, would you please hit the like and subscribe button? I would appreciate that so much. And if you're looking for any products today, make sure that you go through the links in the description. Those do give me a small commission, but they do not cost you anything, and they just really help run this channel and my blog. And if you haven't done it yet, make sure to check me out on social media. I've got all of my different channels up there. So I'm at Nikki Hearts Cards on Instagram, and could really use your help on that algorithm too. So I love to see you guys there, and I hope to see you soon for another video. Have a great day. Bye.